Welcome to Smart Remarks, where I dare you to walk into a restaurant and try to order freedom fries. So Rachel Maddow's show on MSNBC featured a special program this week called Hubris, Selling the Iraq War, and I watched it for about 20 minutes until I had to turn the stupid thing off. I've seen this show before. I lived it. Anyone who was paying attention to the run-up to the war in Iraq knew what was going on in real time. It was obvious that the whole WMD thing was an excuse. Our government, our elites wanted to go to war, and they were determined to get you and I to back it. And so they talked about how we couldn't let the smoking gun be a mushroom cloud. They fabricated relationships between Al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein. They scaremongered, and they got a whole lot of Americans to go along with it. Americans who backed their country, jingoistic, patriotic Americans, and if you didn't back the war, you were a traitor and a fifth columnist, and it was an outrage! I remember this like it was yesterday because it was yesterday, or just a couple years ago. And this was the event that radicalized me and caused me to pay more attention to politics than I ever had in my life. Prior to the run-up to the war in Iraq, I paid some attention to politics, but as we got closer to war, I began to obsess over politics because it became very clear to me that our government was lying to us, and many Americans were fine with that, and that just totally blew me away. I remember watching an evening news broadcast one night, coverage of an anti-war rally, and some pro-war protesters showed up. The reporter interviewed a few of the pro-war protesters, and one of them said something that I'll never forget, something along the lines of, "I know Saddam Hussein has WMDs, I can feel it in my gut." This was the era of politics and truths we could feel in our gut. It was a disastrous era, and there's a direct line between that type of politics and what happened in Iraq. I'd like to think this country learned something from the debacle that was the Iraq War, but you know as well as I do that we didn't. We'd fall for the same thing all over again, and we will fall for it when we ultimately go to war with Iran. The famous Hermann Goering quote comes to mind, quote, "The people can always be brought to the bidding of the leaders. That is easy. All you have to do is tell them they are being attacked and denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing the country to danger." It works the same in any country. It worked here, and it will work here in the future. And you can count on that. But I have to say that I did learn something from the war in Iraq, and that was that government lies when government feels it expedient to do so. I guess I just never really considered this before, but it's also the reason I cannot be a down-the-line liberal on every single matter, because it occurred to me that if government lied in this instance, government may lie again in the future, and then it's probably not going to have anything to do with whether it's Republicans or Democrats running the show. And so that's the reason you don't see me going, "Yay, Obama, economy, it's doing great, man, green shoots." Because that's not what I think is happening. I think in the wake of the Iraq War, Americans ought to take off their partisan blinders. Now, that doesn't mean people aren't going to be conservative or liberal in what they believe. I remain a social liberal, although I'm trending more conservative on economic matters, as some viewers may have noted. But the bottom line is, whatever you may believe, whatever partisan beliefs you may have, you need to use your brain. That's what the Iraq War taught me, because the problem is the Iraq War wasn't a one-off. It'll happen again. And I hope you question it if it does, whichever side you support.